Comic Book Savant, episode 480. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, I'm going to be doing a new episode, starting a new series called Binge Watching at Your Leisure. I was talking to my fellow Spinner Rack bro, Mr. Heath Holland, and we're joking around, talking about what we were watching. And he me and him were spitballing, and he came up with this idea for me. And I was like, I think I like it. I think I'm going to try it and make it a thing. So I came up with a quick snazzy name and figured this would be an avenue with all the craziness in our lives that are going on, that I would talk about things that I was watching that were related to comics, and kind of give you an idea of what I'm watching and things that I'm watching that I enjoy that I think would be good recommendations to you. Some stuff I might talk about you might already know about, some you might not be aware of. But in this first episode of Binge Watching at Your Leisure, I'm going to talk about Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7. It's the final season of the series. This has been a phenomenal show. If you haven't watched it, if you are subscribed to Disney Plus, you can watch all 7 seasons. So even though I'm recommending the final season, it won't be any spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone if you haven't watched it yet, or you don't know much about the actual animated series itself. I'll touch on some of those points. But Clone Wars originally started, let me look this up, because it was a big hiatus in there once it was canceled before they brought it back. I want to say it's been like 15 years. Star Wars Clone Wars started, okay, so it started all the way back in 2008. So what that is, 12 years. So this series started about 12 years ago. It was canceled once Disney picked up bought Lucasfilm. They decided to bring it back. I think they were already in production of I'm trying to remember when it was canceled. I think season 6 was already in production, with certain things being mapped out for season 7. So I think initially they stopped at season 5, but then they finished the part of the episodes for season 6 that they worked on. Then they released those. Then due to just the fandom, they wanted to take those final episodes that they had. Some of them were already storyboarded. Some of them were, some of the animation was just starting up on it. So they finally finished everything out. They tweaked some things because in that time frame between the hiatus of when it was first canceled and them bringing back season 7, they had a whole nother series that started off that tied into the Clone Wars, which was called Star Wars Rebels, which is also on Disney Plus, which I can recommend. I've talked about it heavily in some of my TV Talk episodes in the past. That series has ended now. It's been ended about a year or two ago at this point. So they tweaked certain things in these episodes. They had put up like animatronics and showed what they had done, and like some of the voice work, most of the voice work was done for these last 12 episodes. So they had released that, I think, maybe way back in 2015 or 2017, can't remember. But certain things have changed since then, and now we have full finished animation, and they've again tweaked small things, not super major things, but the information that's contained in these 12 episodes, or these 4 episode story arcs or storylines, were revealed to the public previously, but not in full blown finished animation. So it was really cool. I never wanted it ruined because I always hoped that they were going to do what they've done. So I never followed or watched any of that stuff because I wanted to see it fully produced, not unfinished the unfinished project. So it was cool to see that they got a chance to finish it and end the show properly. And now, if you're unfamiliar with the Clone Wars, let me just give you some of the cast information. We have Matt Lanter as Anakin, doing the voice work of Anakin Skywalker. We have James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka Tano. Catherine Tabor as Padme Amidala. We have Sam Witwer as Darth Maul. We have Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan. We have Bridget Kelly Canales as Trace Martez. We have Elizabeth Rodriguez as Rafa Martez, and D. Bradley Barker as the Clone Troopers. Just to break it down, talking about the 3 story arcs. The Bad Batch is the first 4-issue arc, which centers around Anakin Skywalker and one of the Clone Troopers. If you're unfamiliar with the series, that's called Rex. This one centers on they're the 2 main characters. Mainly Rex is a character with Anakin more as the supporting character, where most of the series is the other way around. So that was cool to see, as Rex being kind of put front and center and seeing more development with his character. We've seen his character develop immensely over the course of the series. But it was cool to really see it stepped up in him being like one of the major, I guess, 10 poles of the overall series. If I think about 10 pole characters, you have, Anakin, Obi-Wan, you have the Clone Troopers, Rex being the most forward representative of the group of Clone Troopers. Then you have Ahsoka Tano on her side, and these arcs touch on how integral these other 2, as far as Rex and Ahsoka, was to the overall overarching storyline of the Clone Wars. So I really thought the Bad Batch squad that we were introduced with were very interesting and funny characters. This story arc, these 4 episodes were a little bit lighter with some slight dark overtones, but they were like a fun just action movie. It reminded me of action movies I watched as a kid in the 80s, and even in my early teens and teen years in the 90s. It was just fun. It was irreverent. It was showing just how BA this Bad Batch squad was, and Anakin and Rex mixing in with this kind of outcast group of kind of defective clones troopers going on this mission, this special mission. And it was just fun, and I would love to see maybe since this is all owned by Disney and we've seen this cross synergy back and forth between comics and animation and even the movies, then I would love to see like a 4 to 6 issue miniseries covering more exploits of the Bad Batch. I would really enjoy seeing them. I was definitely like, I want more. It hit that like nostalgic kid in me when I grew up like devouring action movies. Any action movie that would come out, I would watch. And growing up, my mom was real strict about me watching particular movies, and I couldn't watch. She limited what rated R like comedies, because sometimes back in that day was like raunchiness or nudity and stuff in it, so I wasn't allowed to watch that stuff. Horror movies, I was always afraid of horrors, and the backlash of me flipping out constantly whenever I would see anything horror. I was restricted from watching that. But the one thing she would let me watch is like if it was just bad language in a movie, or like action or killing like in an action film, I could watch. So I grew up watching like all the rated R Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and crazy stuff like Cobra by Sylvester Stallone, which is a crazy action movie that I probably shouldn't have been able to watch, but she allowed me to watch it. So it puts me in that vibe of just the fun, more lighter side of it, not the dark, over the top, violent side of it. But it was just real fun, and it was a good way to ease back into what at times could be heavy in the Clone Wars and how the series had been in the past, where they dealt with some really heavy arcs. This was a lighter arc that tied back into the previously in the series with certain characters that we were reintroduced to. The next storyline, I would say, is Gone Without a Tracer. That's the first episode of that 4-issue arc, which deals with right when Ahsoka leaves once she leaves the Jedi Order. It's kind of a spoiler, but it's kind of a known spoiler at this point. But if you haven't watched the series, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you watch it on Disney Plus, you'll know. # not sponsored. but it picks up right when she leaves the Jedi Order and shows her exploits on Coruscant while she's trying to kind of find her way in the world post being a Jedi and leaving the Order. And she comes across the Martez sisters. I wasn't a huge fan of them when we first introduced to them in the story arc, but by the time the 4 episode arc was finished, they grew on me. I would like to see what happened to them post their interaction with Ahsoka, and since they were on Coruscant once Order 66 was issued, and it changed over from the Republic to the Empire, since they were there on planet, how that would affect them, or did they get off planet? Would be interested to see what happened to them. I wouldn't necessarily need I could do like a 4-issue miniseries, but because again, I got invested in these characters and want to see more with them. I don't know if they'll pop up in something later or not, but it would be nice. Like if that's something in a comic that to a 3 to 4 issue miniseries, or maybe we see that they do later cross paths with Ahsoka again, because there's still things about Ahsoka's past that we have from this series. We know she shows up later in Star Wars canon. We've had a book that then covers from the events that end here leading into where we see her again in the canon. So I would like to see maybe in this block of time, maybe she came back across the Martez sisters, and we could have like a little, like I said, no more than like a 4-issue miniseries, maybe where they years later they meet back up with Ahsoka, and they might have another little adventure. I wouldn't necessarily need to see a whole show on that, but a comic would like fill that void for me perfectly. The next storyline was Old Friends Not Forgotten. I feel like by far it's the best because this is the last arc of the series, and it ties in. It does such a great job in tying into what comes next and how it is concurrent with the Revenge of the Sith, and then later what comes next, which ties into Star Wars Rebels. And it just did. This series is so important. It was kind of sad finally sitting down watching it. I kind of put it off watching it because I knew it was going to be a bittersweet pill for me to take, similar to what I talked about when I did the comic review of the last 20 some issues of The Walking Dead up to the ending of it, where I said it was like a bittersweet thing because it was something that I watched. This again, it started all the way back in 2008 and it was canceled, and I was devastated when they canceled it, and I was so happy once they brought it back and we knew we were going to finally get these last 12 episodes. And I think I was watching it week to week as it was coming out during the Bad Batch storyline. I think I watched the first 2, and I was just like, I just want to wait, because it was like torturous waiting week to week. I just wanted to binge it, so I waited till everything was out. I try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, and I just sat down and just finally just went through it because I just wanted to, each episode wanted the next and the next and the next, and I was getting so frustrated. Like, I get this one episode, it's over, I gotta wait a whole week, and I just have gotten accustomed to binging most things, so it was just better for me to get my fix all in one dose. And I think I watched all 12 of these episodes like within a 2-day span. Just whenever I have free time, I sat down and went through a chunk of episodes. So got through it fairly quickly. And but this last, again, go back to this last story arc, I love the development of Rex and Ahsoka, which really set things up from when we see them both again. How it so nicely ties into the prequel films, as well as fleshing out the Clone Wars. I think this series doesn't get enough credit, and I think it's something that all Star Wars fans should watch, because the prequels didn't do the best job, and they could not cover everything because we only really see the very beginning and the very end of the Clone Wars. This seven season series fills in that whole conflict of the Clone Wars, and it develops Anakin more as a character. Obi-Wan, we get introduced to a new character in Ahsoka, and she has her journey, and we see the aspect from the clone trooper side. We see more of Padme. We see Darth Maul return in the series, which we thought he was dead, and he had a whole story arc that's phenomenal. And I feel like the one of the unsung heroes next to one of my favorite characters, which is Ashley Eckstein's Ahsoka Tano, is Sam Witwer's work as Darth Maul throughout this whole series, and especially during this last story arc. He's just phenomenal, and he added so much depth and dimension to this character that was kind of a throwaway character from the Phantom Menace movie. So it's so great to see just how that character evolved and how he continued to evolve it going forward, springboarding from off this series into Rebels. Overall, if I had to rate this season, not the series, I would give it an 8.75 out of 10. It's definitely required viewing as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like it can work if you are a fan of the Clone Wars series and you've watched previous seasons and it's been a while and you're coming back to it. I don't feel like you have to go back and rewatch the whole series to get everything that's going on here. No, you can just watch it and enjoy it. If you've never watched the Clone Wars, I would recommend you would get more out of it if you've watched what came before. And that's a big commitment. But with everything that's going on right now with the pandemic, you might have some time to knock out 7 seasons. So to start from the beginning, or if you truly want to start back with everything Clone Wars, it gets tricky. I would say if you want to be current with everything with this particular series, it was a theatrical release Clone Wars movie that came out. That was kind of like the pilot. And then you watch seasons 1 through 7. And I want to eventually go back and watch the beginning seasons because I haven't watched them since they originally came out. I never went back and rewatched those films. But, it's definitely something that you could do for sure. Let's see. Try to. So yeah, so the Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie came out in 2008. I think when was it? August 15th of 2008. So you can watch that first, then jump into the Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars season 1, and go from there. So, but I would watch the movie first. So it's definitely worth a view, and again, if you're subscribed to Disney Plus, you have access to all of it. The only thing that is kind of sad in all of it is that it was another Clone Wars series done by Jenny Chetakovsky from Samurai Jack, and which was really good, which was even a prequel to this Clone Wars series that came out. It came out from, what is it, 2003 to 2005, which they were like short, little, it was called the Micro Series, and there were little like 2-minute episodes that they then released. They released them on, I think they were released on DVD. I don't think they've been released on Blu-ray, and I don't even know if you can find them digitally. I remember watching them at the time, and I did have them before I ditched all my physical media. But it was a really good series, and it set up all these characters as well. But I don't know if you can actually where you can find these now, to be honest. And it was Genndy Tartakovsky oversaw the series, and it was 25 episodes that was done. It was a whole different voice cast, but Anakin was a different voice actor. Obi-Wan I see is the same. So it's definitely something that you would want to check out if you can find it. And that was Star Wars Clone Wars. Again, that was hand-drawn animation, where the later Star Wars The Clone Wars series was computer-generated animation. So it's definitely something worth checking out. It was a phenomenal series, and it springboarded, and it's certain things that it is canon, and it does tie into it, but they don't talk about it directly. But Anakin getting the rank of Jedi Master, that's not Jedi Master, but of Jedi happens. Him going through his trials, all that happens in that micro series. You get more. You get more backstory with Count Dooku, also a size of interest, which is a major, ends up being a major character throughout the Clone Wars series, computer animated series. So it's a lot of good bones there to build off of. So definitely that's worth checking out as well. That is another higher recommendation as well. But again, I don't know where or if you can purchase it. I gotta see, I guess, if it's available on iTunes. Um, I don't know. It's such a hard thing to find. Um, I think you can still find it on disc. I'm looking up as we speak because now it's bothering me. I want to know because I'm recommending something, but I don't know if you can get it. Yeah, it's hard to find and it's really expensive, and I don't see it digitally. Like I just looked and I searched and I see like DVD of it is selling like for 50 some bucks. Is this Blu-ray? No, this is just DVD, and it's like one copy left. It's kind of crazy. So it might be hard to find. It kind of, I don't know why they didn't acknowledge it because it was really good. Um, but I know it's in a totally different style because it's hand drawn animation and it looks totally different from what we got with the CG animated one. But it was really good. Yeah, that's gonna be a hard one. Hopefully, at some point that they add. I don't know. I don't think it's on Disney Plus. And um, let me check. It's not like I don't have Disney Plus. I don't think it's on there though. Uh, I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So let me see. Star Wars. Uh, no, I don't see it on here at all. So yeah, I don't know about that. But if you can find it, check it out. It's by Yindi Tartakovsky from Samurai Jack and Hotel Transylvania. He's a phenomenal director of animated content, and it was really good. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. If you have chance, like I said, check out Star Wars: The Clone Wars seasons 1 through 7. If you haven't ever watched the series, and if you have watched the series and you just haven't seen season 7, definitely check it out. If you have Disney Plus, you'll have access to all 7 seasons and the final season right now. I don't know if they're for sale like on iTunes and other services right now. I know a lot of stuff because I know even The Mandalorian eventually came out for you to purchase, but it was after a couple of months after it had actually came out. So, um, but the key is if you got Disney Plus, you can get access to it right now and enjoy it. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. As always, I thank you so much for your support. I know it's a crazy time, so I've been so focused on making sure the content keeps flowing to you guys. I just hope everyone's staying safe. Be careful out there. Enjoy yourself and your family during this time and the people that are closest to you. Um, if you like what I do, send feedback. I greatly appreciate feedback. It goes a long way and helps dictate to me where I need to go with the show and what you guys like and want to hear from me. Um, if you want to support the content, if you want to hear more, see more, I have a YouTube channel which you can find over at youtube.com/comic book savant. I also have merchandise. I have a Teespring store, so I have T-shirts, hoodies, stickers, mugs, all that kind of good stuff. So you can find that over at comicbooksavant.com. If you click on the navigation bar for store, it'll take you right into the store. You can do that. All that helps support. And last but not least, I have a Patreon campaign up. It's patreon.com patreon.com/comic book savant. If you are in search of more content to consume, or you like the sound of my voice, I do a whole nother Patreon exclusive podcast that you can get access to for as little as $1 a month. So if you contribute $1 a month to the Patreon campaign, you get automatic access to the Comic Book Savant extra podcast feed. So I do a whole nother weekly podcast for that's Patreon exclusive, and it's a bunch of other content there as well. The tiers start at $1 and top out at $7. So again, supporting the Patreon helps me keep creating the content that I create here on this podcast, that feed, as well as on the YouTube channel. So it goes a long way in helping me. So if you can contribute to any of those things, I would greatly appreciate it. But in the meantime, I just pray that you guys are being safe and stay safe out there. Until next week, you guys be good and take care.